Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made my popcorn beanie that went viral on Pinterest, which I only have this ugly photo of my laptop screen to show the 40 million views because I didn't know Pinterest analytics only show the last 6 months or something like that. I don't know, I've never been able to get it to show me the actual lifetime number of views ever since. So I didn't know. I should have taken a nice screenshot when I had the chance, but oh well. You all know the beanie that I am speaking of. I originally posted it in September 2025, but didn't feel super confident making a tutorial at that time because I myself used a tutorial to learn how to make the popcorn pieces, and I always want to support my fellow crochet creators on YouTube. So I was sending everyone to that tutorial and explaining that I made a beanie, made a bunch of popcorn pieces, and sewed them on. But recently, with more and more people taking the image of my beanie without my permission and reposting it, and then those reposts get comments too, it's impossible for me to find all those people asking for help on how to make it because I don't always find when my image is reposted. So I thought at this point the easiest thing for everyone would be if I have my own tutorial for free right here on YouTube, because I want everyone to be able to visualize how to make it without struggling and looking at multiple sources for answers. So you're going to need a full skein of red yarn and a full white, and any scraps you have of different shades of yellow. It does not take a lot of yarn to make one popcorn piece, but we are going to be making a lot of popcorn pieces to sew them onto the beanie. So as much yellow in multiple different shades that you can scrounge up, the better. For the beanie, I'm going to use a 5.25 millimeter hook. I always use that for beanies, but I've been told in other tutorials that it's not a common hook size. It was my first crochet hook, so I didn't realize that, but if you don't have a 5.25, you could do up or down one hook size, depending on how you like the look and fit. A 5 millimeter will give you a more tight and clean look, but you may have to do more rows to make it bigger. And a 5.5 millimeter will work up faster and be more loosey-goosey. So to make the popcorn beanie, we're going to be making a bunch of separate popcorn pieces and sewing them onto a beanie individually. So first I'm going to show you how to make the beanie, which is just a basic striped beanie, but I'm going to go through the whole thing anyway and show you as if you've never made a beanie, because maybe you haven't. I want this tutorial to be beginner friendly for everyone. I'm going to put timestamps in the video, so if you feel as though you know how to do something already, you can go ahead and skip to certain parts of the video. So let's start working on the beanie. You can pick any of the two colors of the beanie, the red or the white. It's not going to matter what color you start with, so I'll just start with the red. To start off, we're going to make a basic slip knot. And we're just going to do a chain that will end up being about the length that you want the beanie to be. Remember that we are going to do a drawstring at the top of the beanie, so it'll get pulled in a little, and that will make it a little bit shorter than what we originally chained. And you can also fold a beanie upward, and that is basically my end goal. I like the look of how beanies look folded a little bit instead of just full on straight. So it all depends. This is entirely customizable size wise. I try to make mine at least 10 inches for an adult size, but that is like the bare minimum for adult. Right now I probably did want to do about 12 inches. I actually forgot to bring my ruler to my filming area, so I'm just actually gonna guess, but I suggest you measure it for the size that you want. So I'm gonna chain 40 and see if that length looks good. Here's my chain 40. I think I'm gonna add a couple more. should be good. And then with your same color, you are going to start half double crocheting down the entire chain, and you're going to put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, so nothing special. And you can start like 2 chains from the hook. That's typically the easiest thing to do with half double crochets. So here's 1 chain closest to the hook, here's the second, and we're going to go into the third. And just do half double crochet all the way down the chain. Here is what that looks like. Now you're gonna chain 2 and turn your work. And we're going to be half double crocheting in the back loop only. So instead of doing a regular half double crochet in the front of the stitch below us, instead of going straight into the regular hole that we would normally go into, instead we look at the work from the top of it, and we're going in between that V shape so that we're catching the back loop, and that is the back loop only. But first we have to set up a half double crochet, so we yarn over first, then go into just the back loop and finish the half double crochet. And we're going to do that for the entire rest of the row. Just 1 half double crochet, back loop only, into every stitch from the previous row. Once you get to the end of the second row, you can do your last half double crochet, and then you can change colors in any way that you like to change colors, because some people would cut off the yarn and change colors right here. I probably am just going to finish the stitch, chain 1, cut off the red, and just add the white. Some people might want to carry both the colors throughout the whole project so you have less ends to weave in, and that's totally fine. I'm not much of a yarn carrier, so I just cut off and weave in all the time. So I'm just gonna snip off this end and start working with the white. So I'm gonna make a slip knot with the white and put my hook where I ended the red in that last stitch, and pull the white through that and chain 2 with the white. Turn my work, and I'm going to half double crochet in the back loop only in all these stitches, and I'm going to try to do it over these ends while they're here so that I can just cut them off. So we're just doing the same thing repeatedly while changing colors every 2 rows. It's always going to be half double crochet back loop only, back and forth, no increases or anything. We're making just an entire ribbed rectangle and changing colors every 2 rows. So the beanie part is pretty easy. Every part is pretty easy. It's just assembling it. It all takes patience. So you're gonna want to keep creating rows of red and white until you reach the amount of rows that it takes to wrap the rectangle around your head with a little bit of stretching, so it doesn't just loosely go around your head, but if you stretch it to fit around your head while it is facing this way, because the stripes are going to be vertical, and this is the way we are going to make the beanie. It will fold upwards like this. The drawstring will be at the top, so put it this way around your head once you get to a certain amount of rows to start testing if you've done enough rows. So it's going to take at least 32 or 34 rows to fit around an adult sized head. So I'm going to keep working on mine, see how many rows it takes to fit around my head, and then I will also show on camera how I fit it around my head, how I test it, I mean, and I will share exactly how many rows I end up doing. So once you get to what you think is going to be your last row and you're going to test it on your head, leave that yarn attached because we're going to keep using this yarn to sew the front of the project to the back of the project. I ended up doing more rows than I thought I was going to do. I did 40. 36 would have been okay on my head, and I'm going to show it around my head in a second. But I do have a smaller than average head for an adult, and I try to keep that in mind when I'm going to be selling beanies at markets. I try to make the beanies larger than what my head size is, because my head size tends to be on the smaller size. So then I went up to 40 rows because this was 36 right here, but then I didn't want to end on red when I had started on red. So I did end up doing another 2 rows of the white to get the white stripe. So to fit it around, I'm going to take it with the stripes vertical, and I'm going to fold it in half just so it's easier to work with it, and go to the back of the head and start pulling it towards the front so that you can see if it's going to connect with a little bit of stretch. So even though mine did take a lot of stretching at 36 rows and now at 40 rows, it's only taking a little bit of stretching, if not, like, it doesn't really need any stretching at 40 rows, but that's okay. It's still going to be a very nice size for someone with a little bit bigger head than me. So this is how you test the size of the beanie. I'm sure all of you guys are going to be somewhere between 36 and 40 rows as well, and it's all going to be up to preference, but you're going to want to have just a little bit of stretch. You don't want it to be too big. I did also go down a hook size for those last 4 rows, knowing that 38 rows was gonna be good enough, and yet I had to do 40 to end on the white stripe. So since I knew that was bigger than I technically wanted, I went down a hook size. I'm not sure if that made a huge difference or not, but still, that's something you could do. Once you get the number of rows you want, you're gonna go right to where you ended, and it should be about the opposite of the side where your beginning tail is. You should be diagonal from that, and then you're gonna fold the project in half and turn it, and your beginning tail is gonna be on the left side of you so that you can work from right to left. Let me get a little bit more white yarn, and you can chain 1 if you haven't already. I did already. And we are going to slip stitch through both the white and the red, which was our first row and also our foundation chain, so that we can connect these and make it a rectangular tube. So you go through that first chain and then through the beginning of the foundation chain and pull through both of those, and then pull through for a slip stitch, and then go into the next chain and just keep doing the same thing all the way down, just doing a slip stitch. If you're not fond of slip stitches, you can do a single crochet. That's fine as well. I know some people don't really like slip stitching because it's hard to get the tension right for a slip stitch. I agree with that it can end up being a little bit tight. if you're not used to slip stitching. So if you got to do a single crochet, that is fine too. Once you get to the end and you're right by that beginning tail, we're going to chain one and create kind of a long tail so that we can use the long tail to do the drawstring. I'm going to do like this much. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, except I'm going to cut it here instead of in the middle. My scissors are so old. There we go. That's literally more than I need, but better safe than sorry. So like I said, now we're going to use that tail to create the drawstring at the top of the beanie. So you're going to take a tapestry needle and put the long tail inside the tapestry needle and just go around the entire top, creating a drawstring effect. Try not to get the beginning tail involved in it for now. And then once you get back to the beginning tail, you know you've made it all the way around, and you can pull as tight as you can. And then I like to give it a nice hold with one hand and use the beginning tail to tie it really tight so that it stays closed. Give it a couple knots. And then if you still have a bit of a gap, you can go back and forth. Usually I do, but I actually did it pretty tight, so I think I'm pretty good. But I would just like do this, push it through to ensure, but try to keep it up high, ensure that there's just no hole at the top at all. So you could just pull that tight. And then this is the inside of the hat. I think I'm going to leave the ends for now in case I want to use them for when we're putting the popcorn pieces on. If I want to have these help me tie any popcorn pieces on. So I'm just going to leave them for now. But then you turn it inside or right side out to have this nice striped hat. And now we'll start working on the popcorn pieces. So we're going to be making a bunch of individual popcorn pieces with the tails kept on so that we can basically just tie them onto the hat and sew them on a little bit after we tie them and then weave the tails into the hat. So these are a couple of different ones that I've made in different colors to look like different varying levels of butter on the popcorn. To make the popcorn, we're all going to be switching to a 5mm hook. It's totally customizable how much you want butter on your popcorn, but I'm going to have only about 3 white pieces of popcorn, and I'm going to almost split the light yellow and darker yellow, except I'm going to have a little bit more of my darker yellow, and this is my lighter yellow. So to get started on a popcorn piece, you're going to make a slip knot in any one of your popcorn colors. And you're going to chain 4, or if you're a magic circle person, then you can make a magic circle. I'm not a magic circle person, and I like to not have magic circles in my tutorials because a lot of people are also not magic circle people. But obviously, if you prefer magic circles, then you can go ahead and make a magic circle for sure. But I am just going to chain 4. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and chain 4 with me. And then we are going to slip stitch into the first chain. So we've created a circle. Let me zoom in a little for you guys. And now we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, slip stitch into the first chain of that chain 4. So kind of ignoring the circle we made, pretend that doesn't exist for a second, and just look at the chain 4 we just did. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch into the first chain. Now we're going to chain 3 from there. 1, 2, 3. But the chain 3 is going to go back into the middle of the circle. So if you stretch the circle out a little bit, there's going to be a hole in the middle that we created by putting the end of our chain back into the first stitch of our chain. So we want to go into the circle or into the hole that is in the middle of that circle. I'm going to show it with my needle before I go into it. It's right here. We're going to slip stitch into that and slip stitch back through. Pull it through that stitch, a little hard. And chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And do the same thing that we just did. So the chain 4 and the chain 3. First we chained 4 and slip stitch into the first stitch in that chain. That creates a little nub over here. And then we're going to chain 3. And slip stitch back into the original circle. And do it again. Chain 4. And slip stitch into the first stitch in the chain 4. Chain 3. And from the chain 3, slip stitch into the middle of the original circle. Again, chain 4 and slip stitch into the first chain, chain 3, and slip stitch into the original hole. And we're always going over the original tail as well. So I've been holding the tail down with my other finger over here. And this is creating points. It's starting to kind of look like a snowflake. So we want to have 5 points. Right now we have 4. Hang on, let me take my hook out and show that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means we're going to do it one more time. Chain 4. Slip stitch into the first chain, chain 3, and holding this tail above where we're slip stitching. And now we have the 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It even looks more like a snowflake. It really looks like a snowflake when you're doing the white yarn. And we are going to, after we get the 5 points, you chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Pull it tight. And take the starting tail and pull that tight so that the middle becomes cinched. I really stretched my middle out a lot to show you guys where the hole was, so mine might not go all the way. But do it as much as you can. And then tie them to those 2 tails together. And we're just going to leave these tails because they're going to help us sew the popcorn onto the hat. And then when you're holding the tail, you can pull the popcorn up. And it's starting to look like the popcorn. So now this is the annoying part. You're going to want to make a lot of those. I would say at least 25, if not 30 or more. We're going to start sewing them on and then you'll have to see from there, especially with whatever your placement is going to be like, to see exactly how many you're going to need, and you'll start putting them on and then you'll see if you need to do more. You can always like make one, sew it on, make another one, sew it on. That way you're not like making a bunch of extra ones that you don't need, but I've just been making them for a couple days. So put on a nice TV show and make about 30 of those, and then we will start sewing them onto the beanie. So like I said, we're going to use the 2 tails to sew onto the beanie by putting them through at different parts of the stitch and then tying them together underneath. You have to put it into a different hole, otherwise tying it together is not going to do anything. So at least 1 stitch over from where you've just inserted the other tail. Do that tail. Oh, I've twisted it. Unless that's the other tail. I'll figure that out. Okay, I think it was the other tail. I had to make sure that wasn't horribly twisted. Okay. And I'm going to start off by tying those together. And then you might need to use one of the tails to manipulate the popcorn into a better placement, because the tails do end up on like the exact same spot, and so it doesn't really help make the popcorn sit nice. You might need to run it through another time. But some of the popcorns are going to overlap, so it also might not totally matter for every single piece of popcorn to do this. Just kind of. Make sure it's doing something. Sitting on that hat in some way that looks like a popcorn. Don't have to go too crazy, because when they're all on there, and it's just gonna the overall concept is gonna come through, and it's just gonna look like popcorn. And then you can just hide these ends underneath the popcorn. Don't go too far with it because you can see the yellow yarn underneath the white yarn especially. So if you were to weave them in farther than underneath the popcorn, you're gonna be able to see it, which I did do on the first time I made this hat, and I can like still see it in that picture on Pinterest. I wonder if other people notice it. I mean, that's the type of thing that I don't consider a very big deal, so. But it's easy enough to just weave the ends in underneath a popcorn. Okay, she's popcorning, and then do that over and over again, and mainly focus on the top. And in my first one, I had like 3 falling downward, so I'm going to do that again. And it's definitely have 1 layer on the top, and then some will go over the layer. So save your white pieces to go on top of another piece so that they really stand out, just because the white pieces are cute. When you're going to put your individual popcorn pieces on the front, like scattered about, aside from the ones on the top, like you would just want the ones falling down, try to make sure you're doing it on the side that doesn't have your seam, and also try to be wary of the fold up. Don't be putting a popcorn piece like here, and if you're gonna fold up the beanie, the fold up is gonna cover it up. You don't want to waste popcorn pieces, so try to keep your falling pieces kind of higher up. And there we go, everyone. We've got our popcorn bucket beanie hat. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or as always, I will link my crochet Instagram in the description, and you can also message me directly on that Instagram with any questions, and I will always get back to you. And that way you can even send me pictures of your project if you need help on a specific part and want to show me in a picture where you're at. And please also use that Instagram to tag me in your finished photos if you finish this project and post it on Instagram, because I love to see everyone's finished projects. I also have a crochet Facebook account now, so I'll link that as well. And the same things you can do on Instagram, you can do on Facebook, but I'll definitely answer faster on Instagram. Thank you for watching, and let me know what tutorial you want me to do next.